So as far as the UK is concerned, we have a second wave of COVID that's coming. And a second wave of COVID is going to give the economy a second blow, a devastating blow. The first wave almost knocked the wind out of every single global economy on the planet. Second wave, I always liken this to like bowling balls. If you've been to a bowling alley, you know, you throw the bowling ball and it knocks some pins down and some pins are left standing. Well, the first wave knocked down many economic pins and now there's just a few left standing. How is this going to affect not just the UK, but the rest of the world's economy? Let's have a look right now. So news has been announced that the UK is going through a partial lockdown. They're not shutting down all businesses, but this has been because of cases rising for COVID. Now, not deaths, cases. So more cases are rising, so the government feels they've got to implement measures. What did this do to the markets? Let's just have a look at some UK news stories, and we're going to look at other places around the world and see where this could be heading. And this is the online edition of the Sun newspaper, the largest selling tabloid in the UK, and this is the online edition. And this is dated yesterday, which was, I have to remind myself, the 22nd of September. Virus latest coronavirus UK news, second national lockdown coming and visiting your family could be banned. So lockdown measures have been announced. So there's been regional lockdowns in the UK for the past few weeks. Scotland and Northern Ireland have already been locked down. Well, this has just emerged this week. Cases are going up and there's a mathematical model that they use to calculate how many cases it could be if this continues increasing and it's not looking too great. So they've shut pubs early because COVID obviously doesn't come out after 10 o'clock. It's got to be in bed, doesn't it? And other restaurants have closed at 10 because COVID doesn't hang out in restaurants after 10. So it's got to be at home. So that's why we've got to kind of come away from these businesses. What did this news do to stock markets? Well, you can see just news of this. Britain's stock market suffers worst day in months with more than 51 billion wiped off the FTSE 100. So the UK stock market, British stock market suffered the worst day in 3 months, 15 billion wiped off. The crash came in the wake of fears that a second coronavirus wave will force the government to launch harsh new lockdown measures. Markets also tumbled across the world amid the continuing coronavirus pandemic and its effect on the global economy. Can we see how fragile the stock markets are, the economies are? Just the hint of any news of a lockdown and the markets start tumbling down. Well, what happened in March? Well, in March, we had the worst days since the financial crisis of 2008. And this story has evolved. So this is from the 9th of March 2020. Shares around the world had their worst day since the financial crisis, with the dramatic falls leading to the day being dubbed Black Monday. So the main financial indices in the US closed down by 7%, while London's index of top shares ended the day nearly 8% lower. So this was the first market crash we had early this year at the beginning of lockdown. And the news headlines, as I said, they evolved. They said that this was the worst day since the financial crisis of 2008. Then they started saying it was the worst financial crisis in 20 years, in 30 years. And then they said it was worse than the great financial crash of the United States of 1929. So this is what happened the first wave. This was just very early day stories, and as time progressed, it got even worse. This is what happened with the news of a potential second lockdown just in the UK. Now, there were massive losses. £15 billion have been wiped off the UK stock exchange, but there were massive losses back then as well in March of this year. And what happened, the government, they've gone into helicopter drop money where they're throwing currency into the economy to push the economy back up, to give the impression that these stock markets are getting up. So you can see headlines like saying £15 billion being wiped off the FTSE 100. Yes, and this article is from a day ago, which was on the 22nd of September. Well, in a few weeks' time, you'll see an article saying, don't worry, they've recuperated the losses. How they've recuperated their losses is the government is going to artificially inflate, and there's artificial inflation of markets to give the perception that there is no need to panic. They have everything in control. It's quite the opposite. A news headline will send a ripple into the stock markets. If the stock markets crash, the whole economy goes down. Where's this going for the rest of the world? We've seen about the UK. Australia's coronavirus lockdown strategy work. Could this be a model for the US? And this is from CNN, dated September 21st. Large states, particularly the area of Victoria, they've got a lockdown going on. And now there's talk about, could this be a model? Could this be a model for the US? So potential models are being mirrored across countries to contain COVID-19. Cut. Full screen. Three, two. I need to get some long sleeve shirts. This is not a good look, is it? I mean, tattoos like this, talking serious topics. 3, 2, 1. Contain COVID-19. So these models, what was initially used in China, the lockdown model was implemented in the UK. What is being used in Australia is potentially going to be implemented in the US. No global economy can afford a second lockdown. They just can't handle it. And you've seen, I've demonstrated, I've shown you articles and proof what happens when news of a lockdown comes out. The markets panic. They panic. And who is panicking? The investors are panicking. They drop down. And who pumps them back up again? Not the investors. The investors do not pump these back up. They get pumped up by banks and central governments with fake currency to push them up again. It's like having a balloon that has got holes in it. And every time there is news of a second wave, another hole appears and air comes out. Don't worry, the government and the banks are there to blow air back in, but nobody's patching up the holes. This economy is leaking, and the investors who are leaving the economy, who are leaving the stock markets, they are not going to be coming back a second time. They won't be coming back a second time. They were persuaded the first time to come back in, they won't be coming back a second time. First time round, smart money, their institutional money started going into precious metals and cryptocurrency, and this time round, there's going to be an even bigger rush. There is a very short window of opportunity to become involved in cryptocurrency and precious metals before the prices really do double, triple, quadruple. There's going to be exponential growth in both these markets. And as these markets are shooting up, the stock markets and other markets are going to be shooting down. They're going to be plummeting. So I cover all of this and why you should be looking particularly at cryptocurrency and precious metals in my free ebook. I'm going to put a link below. It's called Financial Protection Secrets Black Book. What your bank doesn't want you to know. Click below and get your free copy. In the meantime, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video.